So hello everybody, and welcome back. I hope that everyone managed to get the opportunity to use the networking platform during that short break that we've had there, and have been able to meet and chat with some of your fellow participants during the short break, and maybe even make some new connections. So I hope everybody found that useful. But now on to the next part of the proceedings. So I'm delighted to now move forward to the first of our debates that we have as part of the conference. So you can see from the program here in front of me, we're going to be very shortly having our fireside chat, which is going to be looking back to WRC-19, looking at some of the key outcomes, and also at the implementation of those throughout the region. Just quickly to mention then, following that, we have an hour for this session now, and then following that, we are moving on to the first group of our showcase sessions. You can see the three showcases that we have taking place there. One thing I just briefly wanted to mention on these, the title I gave you for the Qualcomm showcase earlier on was actually incorrect, so apologies for that. The title of the Qualcomm showcase is going to be Unleashing the Full Potential of 5G. So that one will be on showcase session 2. The other two showcases we have running is 5G is On, which is hosted by Huawei, and Dynamic Spectrum Access for an Inclusive Digital Africa, hosted by Microsoft. So all of those will be happening on the showcase stages in around about 1 hour or so. But before that, and without further ado, I would like to now to welcome our moderator for the first panel that we have for our event. So I'd like to bring to the stage Jean-Jacques Massima. Jean-Jacques, welcome. We have an excellent lineup of speakers now for this panel, so I'd like to pass over to you to explain more and to introduce our speakers. So looking forward to it.
Thanks very much, Dan. Good afternoon or good evening for some of you, and welcome to this session. I will be very brief, just to welcome my fire starters. I have 3 fire starters with me here for this session, 1 hour sessions. So we have Kezias Mwale from the African Education Union. We have Bashir Gwandu. Bashir, as you all know, he is the chairman of the ITU Commonwealth Group, very active in all the WRCs. And we have our guest of honor of Egypt, Mohamed Moghazi. Mohamed El Moghazi is representing Egypt, who was the host of this fantastic WRC-19. So thank you very much. The 3 speakers will make a short round to present themselves and their duties, but I would like them to in their point of view, personal point of view, to give to us, if they were to recall, to remember, or to keep in mind critical topics of this WRC-19, what should be their issue. And of course, this session will make a wrapping up of the main decisions of this WRC-19. So we were very happy to have Mario with us at the opening of his Spectrum conference. Last year we were in Gaborone, and of course now with this COVID and online session, we are very happy to see that most of you have been able to be connected to this meeting. And of course, as Mario already said, we pay tribute to the African Telecommunication Union and to the South African delegation who were chairing the African group for the progress made by the African and the commitment they did in our regional positions to this conference, which was said as a successful one. So can you say to us what were the ingredients for this WRC-19 to be successful? Thank you. So Kezias, from Matu, you have the floor.
So thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Massima, someone who is very keen on radio matters. We thank you so much. Now, before I comment, allow me to thank Forum Europe, for putting this together. So that's Dan Kraft and his colleagues. So like you've heard, I'm Kezias Mwale. My role at the African Union in the last 8 years has been to coordinate and see how much improvements we can make on radio communication matters. And I'm hoping that we are trying to do that. Now, the moderator has asked a very packed question, but before I even attempt to say that, really, I think in our view, the most important ingredient to the success of the WRC, as I'm hoping all of us can admit and agree, is really the preparations and I mean, Egypt went to host WRC-19 wholeheartedly. They did not spare any effort. If you are a part of the WRC, you'd agree with me that that kind of hospitality, that kind of branding, that kind of security, perhaps you can only get that in Egypt. And we thank Egypt so very much. So for us, I think it's just the level of preparations, the level of goodwill of the Egyptian authorities at the level of the head of state. Because I hasten to mention here that indeed WRC-19 was opened by His Excellency the President of Egypt. So I think it was that, and then also we had great delegates. Yeah. So I suppose my opening remark time is over, but I offer you those two remarks, Mr. Moderator. So one. Really preparations and goodwill of the Egyptian authorities to make sure that the WRC was successful. And also, I think we had a great participation from the side of delegations. Thank you.
Very much. Now, from a country point of view, Bashir, you are coming from Nigeria, even if you were speaking on behalf and connecting on behalf of a Commonwealth group, but can you give your opinion, please?
Thank you very much, Jinjak, and thank you, Dan, and the whole team for the honor of inviting me onto this forum to say my views or views from where I'm coming from. Well, I have so many caps. One of them is on top of my head. So you can see the others are that one, as chairman of the Commonwealth ITU group, and also in Nigeria, I am on the Council of Ministers, or well, mainly Council of Ministers dealing with privatization, including all telecom assets and so on. So I have several hats, but speaking on the perspective of country, Nigeria, we are very pleased with the way, of course, Egypt managed the conference, the Africa Telecom Union, the way they manage, and we are very, very pleased with the outcome of the conference. We have, I can list a few of the key areas of what I think at the best we have achieved. A lot of them coming from us as Nigeria, because I would be speaking more as Nigeria really than as the whole Commonwealth countries. As Nigeria, we have so many things we've achieved. I can list them down and I can break them down individually at the next round of the conversation, if given the floor by the moderator. But I think Nigeria, we're very pleased with the outcome of the conference. In particular, we have the outcome on the IMT spectrum. We're very pleased with it. In fact, those outcomes are already part of the Nigeria's broadband plan. I mean, actually, that's key in Nigeria's broadband plan 2020 to 2025. The whole section was dedicated to that. So that is to tell you how weighty the government of Nigeria has given the outcome of the allocation of spectrum IMT. Also, the satellite. The changes that enable access to satellite slots, the eSIMs, the apps. I mean, we have, of course, but then the key ones are the IMT identification plus the future. Those are we're going to study. We have three key items that came from Nigeria in particular. The 3.6, 3.8 study, which is now an agenda item 1.3. There is also 47694, which is now agenda item 1.5. We have also 6 gigahertz on the 1.2. All those really were pushed by us as Nigeria at the conference, and we are very pleased with the outcome of the conference in that regard. Anyway, I'm coming back to break them down one by one. Thank you, moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Bashir. Now let me speak with my brother and friend Mohammed. Mohammed, you are director of the Spectrum Research in the NTRI in Egypt. So I guess you take a very big part in the preparation of the African continent as a whole to this conference. So everyone was very happy to go in Sharm el Sheikh and see how Egyptians were very kind and to help all the delegations and to find a consensus way. So can you give me the impression of your country and your impression yourself after the successful conference in Sharm el Sheikh?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. First of all, I'm very grateful for Forum Global for this opportunity. Thank you so much, Dan. And also, I'm happy to be on the same panel with Professor Bashir. He's one of my mentors in Africa, and brother Kizias, who has been always supportive to me on the personal level and to my country, Egypt, as a member of ATU. And of course, your kind self, Mr. Massima, you need no introduction from me. Indeed, I'm very happy to participate in this Sub-Sahara conference. And it's not a secret that my favorite place for any meeting is the Afralti campus in Nairobi. And having said that, it was really an honor and privilege to host all of you in your country, Egypt. And we are looking forward to host more events in the future. I guess talking about WRC-19, the main message that we wanted to send is that Africa can do anything. We are capable of doing this. It's not about Egypt. It's not about how we were kind host. Whenever or wherever I travel in Africa for any meeting, I find the same set of kind host criteria. And I think the message that we send, or the main criteria in the successful of WRC, were the African who planned well, who did their best, and who are always the best in hosting other people. So again, I think this is the beginning of a big Africa that can host other stuff, and beside hosting that, can achieve bigger items in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mohamed. That's very great. And of course, yes, I do remember that you chat, discuss, even in the side events, this problem of connectivity and how to connect the unconnected with these 5G issues and so on. But you will speak to our friends online here. What were the most important outcomes and takeaways from this WRC in terms of what did the African continent propose to the conference, and what did you bring back to us? Kezias, please.
All right, so I was waiting for the studio people to unmute me. So during the last cycle, between WRC-15 and 19, we had 4 preparatory meetings as the African region, 1 in Nairobi, 1 in Yaoundé, 1 in Cairo, and the last one, the final one, was in South Africa. We had, over the preparatory process, agreed on 96% to 97% in terms of common African positions on the agenda items and issues for WRC-19. And what were these, the main ones? One of which was HAPS, so I will not go into details for lack of time, but really, why HAPS? Because we are hopeful that HAPS 2.0 will help our region cover the rural areas. Mr. Massima, you know quite well, our region is quite vast. In many regions, broadband is lacking, and we are hoping that HAPS 2.0, yeah, and I deliberately stress 2.0 because HAPS 1.0 did not take off, perhaps because of technology limitations. And then it was the big one, 1.13, additional spectrum for IMT. As you know, 5G is around the corner, and really this additional identification for IMT should be able to unlock that potential. In our case, it was Agenda 7, Issue E, for example, Annex 7 to review of Annex 7 to Appendix 30 to provide an opportunity for Africans, African countries whose resources there in the BSS plan were now unusable to try and identify new ones. And then it's the issue of eSIMs. Yeah, we know it's a pity COVID kicked in, but broadband in planes was really taking off, and the hope was that this eSIMs was going to further. And I'm personally quite sure that when the COVID situation dies down, when we start to fly again, eSIMs will be quite key in the skies. Then it's the GMDSS, yeah, security of life in the maritime, and also guards. And then for us in Africa, really, we've been struggling. Many countries have been struggling with the issue of illegal visas, illegal earth stations. And therefore, we took to WRC-19 a proposal to reinforce, yeah, to try and develop mandatory measures in order to try and curb these illegal earth stations, primarily the visas. And then on the administrative side, we took to because I mean, when we speak about WRC-19, we cannot leave out RA-19. So this relates to RA-19, and there our wish as the African group was really to have our able Mr. Obama re-elected as the chair for RAG. And we are very grateful to the rest of the world, to the rest of the regions for accepting that that proposal. And indeed, for example, the chair for one start group 1 is Egypt, and all that. So both from the substantive side, from the administrative side, I think both RA and WRC-19 decided in our favor, and we are not because we are clever, no, but because of the goodwill we received from CITEL, from CPT, from RCC, from the SMD, and indeed from the RCC. So that's part of the story. I'm sure Dr. Gwandu will expand on what we took back. So what I've given you is what we took into WRC-19, and perhaps you may wish to invite Dr. Gwandu to try and unpack what we came out of there, and probably to touch on the implications from the member state perspective, as well as from the African perspective. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Kezias. Yes, Professor Gandour, but you stated, you put on the table, yes, these satellite issues with the continent. Now, we have in the press releases and so on. So some countries are now launching some satellites here and there, and so on. So of course, yes. Do you think that the decisions on these non-geostationary satellites and so on are now taken so that a lot of countries can make some progress on that, and we could play our card on this issue of rural connectivity, but also of scientific and scientific services? Professor Bashir.
Thank you very much, Njak, again, and thank you, Kezias, for giving us a whole round overview of what we went into the conference seeking to achieve. And thank you, Mohammed, for the honor of you have given me earlier in the discussion. Now, starting from what Njak just mentioned on the satellite, before I went into what I think are the key. one by one. But in my opinion, Jack mentioned a review, satellites area that we have been able to achieve. I think the review of Appendix 30B to enable a group of countries to go together and use, if you like, apply for spectrum slot. I think that is a very, very huge progress for Africa, because for economic reasons, countries need to work together to achieve the objective in that regard. So that's very good for a number of countries that need to work in collaboration to maximize the potential of using satellite resources. Now, but importantly, like as mentioned, we went, in my opinion, we've achieved 95 or more percent, or probably even 97% of what we want to get. In fact, we got probably more, in the sense that there are things we actually even changed along the line. At the conference, we sat down to modify our position, and we were able to achieve what we thought was very useful for us. Let me start by the key ones that I think, taking cue from Nigeria, I've looked at Nigeria's broadband plan. And like I said, the key ones that have been identified in the plan are, for example, 24 gigahertz, that identification and getting urban emission that is tolerable to us. That was really regarded as a major achievement for us. That's what our number one priority. Then we have identification of 40 gigahertz spectrum, that is from 37 to 43.5. That is very key. We have also 45.5 to 47, which came literally from ECOWAS when they came Africa, and then we're able to achieve it. Then we have 47.2 to 48.2, also very important to us. Then we have 666 gigahertz, which is from 66 to 71 gigahertz spectrum. And those 5 are really key items, but there are others. Like I said, we have, in coming from Nigeria, we actually also have a change. At the meeting, we sat down with our minister, we had discussion, and we were able to modify our position on the 3.6, 3.8 gigahertz, and it has now become an agenda item 1.5, 1.3 on the conference. That's a huge achievement for us. We also we modified our earlier take on the 6 gigahertz. Initially, we were having different products, but then we changed. We supported the ministry on that. Now it has become a major item, 1.2, and we pursued it vigorously. And then it has now become an agenda item under 1.2. And then we have retained the commitment of WRC-19 to retain an agenda item on 470.694, which is now agenda item 1.5. These are really very important achievements that came specifically from us, Nigeria I'm talking about. But as Africa, all these have become adopted as African issue, and we pursue them on that basis. But there are others. Like I said, Cases mentioned hubs, getting rural connectivity, very important to us. VSAT, because of security issue for our countries, illegal visas have become an issue, and that RA has retained that, which is very important. And that is an agenda item which I believe has been very important to us, which is on 4.8 to 4.99 gigahertz. That is very important agenda item that we propose on agenda 10. Very important, I believe, as part of the achievement. So really, all that we went looking for. By the way, there are others like eSIMs, like I said, that also would have contributed significantly, even for COVID. But at least those are achievements. We have them on the table, and those are things that we have collectively achieved as a group from African perspective. And we are very grateful to the conference and to our colleagues from other regions that actually work with us to achieve those. We have change from the Nigerian perspective. We've also agreed to some slight changes on our use of spectrum that allow. But basically, we swap the leg uplink and down on the agenda item 9.1.1. That is also major issue that has been resolved. I think we're happy with the resolution. So these are the key ones. But on the IMT identification, that I thought Nigeria actually gave priority to. I mean, we want 5G like everyone else. We want to partake. I mean, this communication we're doing, if we have 5G, we will be able to do it in faster way, and we'll be able to do other things at the same time concurrently. These, and with plus all other way we manage our own, if you like, businesses, education, and many other aspects of our lives. 5G enables that, and we are happy that decisions have been made to identify this millimeter wave spectrum for that. Don't forget that Nigeria has been very active in identifying for even 4G. When we started in 2007, we are in the forefront of allocation of 800. We also 5G when we started with 700. Nigeria was at the forefront of it, and now comes the millimeter wave, which we are also happy to be to work with colleagues to achieve. Now the UHF is the next one, very if you like hot potato. The 3.63.8, another hot potato. I think these are things that we put on the table for discussion. We are happy with the outcome of the conference on that basis, and I'm sure there's a lot of benefits that will come to our people on these areas that we mentioned. Thank you, moderator. If you have any...
Thank you, Bashir. Thank you very much, Professor. So let me give the floor now to Mohamed. We are all Egyptian citizens by the story, common story. But now it seems that, okay, there's some reluctance, Mohamed, from the people towards this new technology deployment of this 5G and so on. And how can you tackle these issues? What did you take from this conference to the people, to the consumers, in terms of trying to be better connected, but without fear for our health, without fear for our environmental aspects?
Thank you so much, Mr. Massima. Indeed, we all are African citizens. I'm very proud to say that. And I think I'm trying not to get into details of specific technology, whether it's 5G or not, but I think it's hard to focus on WRC-19 without mentioning that the start was in WRC-19. WRC-12, I'm sorry, when the main message that Africa sent at that time, and Professor Bashir, I'm sure he can support me on this, that we can innovate and suggest new ideas. In this conference, WRC-19, we were on the same level of preparation, and we had a very solid ground and even more harmonized output compared to other groups that had much more resources than us. So I think the main output from WRC-19 was that Africa has maybe the most harmonized voice with regard to most of the agenda item. Even with regard to sensitive issues such as the future of UHF, eventually Africa was able to accommodate all the requirement of the African countries, even if they are a minority. And another issue was the proof of leadership. At the time of the conference, you can find Mr. Peter from South Africa moving everywhere, having this excellent team of experts from the African countries. I'm afraid that I can forget some names, but you have George, you have Abdurrahman, and so on. And our voice was reached everywhere and appreciated by all of the other groups. So I think at the end of the day, we showed the world that we can defend our interests and also be flexible to some other items. 5G, talking about 5G, I think we are now on the same ground with Europe, with other developed countries. The world has changed since WRC-12. We are not, most of the time, I'm not talking like I'm a developing countries, I'm waiting for Europe, I'm waiting for the US. Now, we are on the same step. We are maybe on the same ground. And yes, 5G is a matter of time for most of the African countries. I hope so. Thank you, Mr. Massima.
Thank you very much. As you know, the director has given a very big information to you. Next Wednesday, the new RR will be published and available for everyone. And you know that I remember in all these WRCs, it's always a struggle, a fight to try to decrease the number of footnotes on all these. So these appeal a very good sense of consensus, of negotiation. So your influence at this conference is recognized and so on, but what now needs to be done to continue this strong in the continent, in trying to have our voice better heard and our proposals approved by the other regions? Kezias?
Okay, so again, I was waiting for the studio to unmute me. So that's a very important aspect, Mr. Moderator, you bring. We have to look ahead. And how do we do that? So the one bit that I must stress on behalf of the Secretary General of the African Telecommunications Union, on behalf of the membership, is that we continue to count on the goodwill of all our regional counterparts. This I must stress, because as you know, moderator, very distinguished moderator, you know the WRC process. You cannot win as a region. At WRC, you cannot win as a region. You cannot win as however powerful a country can be, you cannot win. You have to rely on, I mean, in my case, I think it's a lot to do with goodwill. Now, goodwill aside, we have to better our preparations. And in this instance, I'm very happy to announce here that we've already created 7 working groups, 2 for chapter 1, and then working group 2, 3, and then 2 under chapter 4, and then 5. This, as with WRC-19, will spearhead the technical work. And then we will have 4 R2 preparatory meetings for WRC-23. We already had 1, 4 to 7, I mean 3 to 7 August, virtually hosted by Cameroon. Very, very successful. We will have another one next year, another one in 2022, and the final big one in 2023. The hope is that by the time we are reaching the 3rd one, the picture will have been formed, and by the time we are having the 4th one, we will just, put final touches. And this time around, last time we went into WRC-19 with a 96% common voice from Africa. I pray to God that this time we will reach 110%. With the goodwill of all African states, with a common purpose, I'm very sure this time we will reach 100%. This is my prayer. And how are we going to do that? We will make sure that at the sub-regional level, there is inter dialogue between our East Africa, between West Africa, yeah. And by the way, we hold all our meetings in open air, even at the sub-regional level. So, Mr. Moderator, may I simply stop here and say that given the strategy, the work plan that we have, given the solid experience we have from, first of all, WRC 7, and then 12, and then 15, and then 19, over time, we've shown that we are improving, and I'm very sure that WRC will be a further improvement. Thank you for that important question. It's a very important question. Yes.
Thank you very much, Bashir and Mohamed. If you have a few 1-2 minutes comment on that issue.
KZ has really summarized the key items of cooperation, the early preparation. I think this is what has been progressing from 2007 to date. Like I just mentioned, 2007, we went for a few things. We said we're not coming back home empty-handed. We did something on with Protector C1 at the time, and we also got allocation of 800. Our voice was before then really not there. We started making our voice heard at the time, and we worked not only ourselves, we really had good working cooperation with other regional groups all around the world, and we work closely. What is important, we're able to communicate our message that this is what we require to bring home from this conference. We look at what the other regions also require. We see where we can make, where we can have meeting ground, where we can both be happy to achieve something to take back to our people. We did that in 2007, we did that in 2012. When 2012 was most difficult, we were able to handle a very difficult issue, but then we had really good cooperation from the rest of the world, if you like, from other groups that decided to, if you like, go out of their way to support us in achieving our objective. Now, similarly, the Romanian conference, even the last conference, really phenomenal. I mean, unbelievable achievement for us. I think we did practically all the things I have on my book. I've taken. I practically got all of them, or if I'm more. So I think it is all down to cooperation from all parts of the world. And I think Africa is beginning to learn. And that is really the work of the coordination of ATU. ATU has changed significantly from 2006. 2006, when I went, ATU was practically not having a meeting. I put people together, we said, let's have discussion on this. I chaired the meeting, we started discussion. You were there, Jinjak. We got our group working together from that time until today. ATU is growing in influence. And I think that is really very helpful to have that kind of anchor, to have that kind of coordination between ATU and even the sub-regional groups, you know. So I think this is really very good. And I think with that, studying early, discussing difficult issues early, because like right now, at the conference, the discussions we have, say, for example, the debate on 3.63 was more within Africa itself. So, but if we are able to discuss early and within Africa, we'll go there prepared, we'll go there with one voice, and maybe at least the trust will increase between us as a group. And once that happens, we know that we're all working towards achieving something for our people. I think we'll continue to make progress. And I think, I mean, the ground is prepared. I mean, we have so many able hands, like I'm saying, Mohammed is KZS. If you look back from where we came from, now they're very strong. Anywhere they speak, they're recognized. And I think that is very important for us. It's very important for me to see this kind of progress. And I think we'll continue to make such progress. We'll continue to do our contribution, and we'll continue to work in the best interest of our people. What we think is best, we'll continue to pursue it, but we'll be working in cooperative manner with the rest of the regional groups to achieve this. But I think, like I said, we're happy with the achievements. I've listed some of the items. If there are any further questions on how we can break down the item each, to say this is what we think. But I think most people, or most of our audience, know that these are important instruction band that we'll be able to get results for, and to also put on the table for the next conference. Thank you, Ginger.
Thank you, Bashir. Mohammed, you are in a very ideal position to be in the Arab world and in the African world. So, of course, coordination among regions is very important. What can be, can you propose? What are to pave the way for reinforced cooperation between the Arab group and the African group, as most of the northern countries in Africa are part also of the Arab?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Matima. Indeed, I think one of the, as I mentioned, one of the strongest aspects of the African countries is that we are very harmonized in everything. If you consider us as a developing countries, we all are developing countries. We have the same set of requirements in terms of technologies. So this is the main, strongest aspect of us. Similarly, I think SMG also has maybe less harmonized than ATU, but also it's the same way of thinking. And for that reason, Egypt has recently proposed to have an ATU, a North group, to harmonize the positions of ASMG. And it's not a secret that talking from ASMG perspective, ASMG has been very keen to harmonize its positions with ATU for several reasons, but it's indeed, you can consider it as a very close geographical area. We have the same situation, we have the same demand for technologies. So I personally consider it as one region, the ASMG plus ATU. Talking about preparation, I think again we have the main ingredient, our people. If you attend meetings in SMG or in ATU, most people are very straightforward, are very kind, are very keen to reach an agreement, are very keen to be flexible to accommodate the others. Even talking about how we wear, rarely you find people who wear ties or something like that. It's more of a very friendly atmosphere in SMG and ATU. But I'm very optimistic with regard to WRC 23 with regard to the cooperation between the two groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear speakers. Yes, the poll made by Forum during our sessions is showing clearly that most than 50% of people are happy with the outcomes and the takeaway of this WRC, and that around 40% of the people are thinking that's okay. More than 75% of the goals were achieved during this WRC, which is thank you, Dan, for this poll, which is a good indication of what we need to do further in order to try to have more people happy coming back from these conferences. So, Bashir, you
can I say something on this last? Thank you.
I think
Mohammed is a very important point, really, which we need to sustain as Africa. The cooperation between ATU and ASMG, as I said earlier in my last intervention, we have cooperation from the whole group around the world, but important relationship which has really been key to our success, I believe, is the cooperation we have with ASMG. I mean, I personally regard ASMG as family, really, as part of us, really. I mean, we have worked together, I mean, from 2012 till today as one group, literally. There is hardly any barrier between us. We work very closely, and I'm very happy with that relationship, because based on that, we're able to pursue so many things, and we're able to deliver them at various conferences. And that relationship really needs to be sustained. And of course, that is not to say that we don't have cooperation with others, because frankly speaking, in 2012, we have cooperation from all around the world. I must not forget that even the support of the United States was really, really key. If I may single out one country, they were very, very, very helpful to us. I mean, in getting this. So the cooperation can come from any angle. Without singling individual group or individual countries, I believe cooperation with ASMG from Africa should continue to be sustained. It's very important to us. It has helped us, and it will continue to help us as a group. And I think going forward, that should be a way forward. We need to start this discussion early enough, because the thing is that where cooperation is, because we have similarities, we have so many things that are common in terms of development. That's why it's easier to understand each other from that perspective. Our countries are in similar kind of demography, similar kind of economic situation, similar kind of environment. So that's why it's easier to understand each other's problem and work together. And that I think we should continue to do going forward. So if you have any further question you want me to ask, I can also come back to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bashir. I would now like the floor to react and to see some chance to have on the chat some questions coming from the floor. But of course, you have already recalled to everyone the bands which were identified for IMT at WRC. But now my question is not to come back to these respective bands, but just to say what are the next steps we can try to tackle in Africa to ensure that they are made available as quickly and efficiently. Because in the chat, I can see some questions already raising here, and to say that, okay, look, what are you gaining in connecting rural communities, and how can the spectrum made available to help to these rural connections? The grounds are not well known by our delegates. Another question coming from the chat here for you, coming from John, and to Bashir and Nigeria, to say that, okay, the region it seems that the region does not have a single voice on some important issues. So what else can we do to try to improve these one sound and one single voice on some important issues? Okay, the floor to you.
Is that me, ma'am? Yeah, thank you. I suppose it's me. Can I go ahead, Ms. Jinjak? Is that me?
From the John Omo SG was dedicated.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that. John Omo asks, how can we enhance more inter-African work on radio? The issue of perception that there are many organizations and external parties working with different organizations in Africa on radio spectrum, giving impression that Africa does not have a single voice on this important issue. Now, the way I see this is that we can have as many organizations as that can be. I mean, the number of organizations doesn't affect Africa. What is important, and what I always regard as important for me, taking any issue, is how does it affect my people? How does it affect those I am trying to represent? How does it improve their lot? Once we have that at the back of our mind, if somebody is looking for something from any other group, what can I give him that will hurt him myself? What can I take that can bring back to make my people happy? That's the way I look at this. Now, so because this meeting is give and take, you can't expect to have 100% of everything you want all the time. Sometimes you might be lucky, like we've been lucky in the last conference, but not all the time you'll be lucky to have 100%. Groups can come with different proposals. By the way, all these groups are business, they represent different business interests that we are also part of. If somebody brings an interest to you and it's aligned with the interest of your people, pursue it. Let's make it work. I mean, don't forget that the interregional groups can be approached from different angles. And for as long as what they're proposing is in line with our interests, why not? And I think what's important is now, how do we work together from, different parts of Africa to pursue an interest? I mean, groups can have, like we have ECOWAS, SADC and so on. So far, for me, the work we have done, been participating for example, from ECOWAS side, I participate in SADC meetings, I participate in ECOWAS. We also participate in, I believe, SNGO as observers. We go to these meetings. And the idea is to bring it to harmonize early enough, harmonize our views early enough. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. We can always develop combos for as long as what we are pursuing is in the basic interest of our people. I mean, let me give you a typical example. Nigeria went was opposition, for example, on the 0.6, 0.8 last conference. We sat down and changed that decision at the meeting, actually, with our minister at the time. Even though we have a satellite operation that bad. But the idea is study, we said, but we have a lot of opposition, even from West Africa. I mean, we had Guinea and others opposing us strongly on that. I mean, that's okay to oppose. You don't always want to hear us. If you have no opposition, you don't make much progress. That means you get start making things wrong. I like to hear the other side of things. But what's important, I have clarity in what I want to achieve for my people. I believe what we pursued was in the best interest of our people, and we pursue it. So anybody you can bring any idea, if you like, even from another planet, it doesn't matter. Put it on the table. How do I benefit from that idea? How can my people benefit from that? If I benefit, if once we pass this test, as there's benefit for our people, there's nothing wrong with cooperation and pursuing such idea to bring back homes and results that eventually will be granted. Take, for example, I mean, those items that we mentioned, if I look at, I mean, Nigeria's broadband plan, which I am actually having here, and the issues that we have in this, some of them were not even before we didn't even take them to conference agenda, but now they have been regarded as very important to Nigeria. And these are some of the issues I just listed. For example, the 600 megahertz, the 3.6, 3.8 are well listed on the broadband plan for Nigeria. Before the conference, they were not. But so if people convince you this idea that it's good for you, you take it. Similarly, for Nigeria on the gigahertz, we didn't go to the conference with 6 gigahertz in mind, but we sat down on things that has benefit for our people also. We pursue the 6 gigahertz discussion, and it's now on the agenda item for the next conference. So for me, bring idea from anywhere, for as long as it is valuable and I can see the benefit of people, we should pursue it. And we can make it work, and we can explain to various groups that we work together. That is sort of the interregional groups that we can work together with and say, this is what is in it for us, and let's work together on getting it. I think.
Thank you, Bashir.
Yes.
Professor. We are still 10 minutes for our sessions, and I have some questions in the chat. So, Mohamed,
yes,
your point to go on. And
very briefly, Mr. Massima, about the perception that we have many inter-African group. I think I would disagree with that. So it's very useful for Africa to have these inter-regional group because it makes our life easier. It makes reaching consensus easier. And instead of sitting in a meeting with plus 50 voices, we have only 4 or 5 internal groups that are flexible and that are trying to reach consensus. And as I mentioned before, Africa is much more harmonized, or maybe the most harmonized group comparing to, I don't know, CETEL or CEPT, where they have people from RRC and CEPT and so on, and EBT. EBT has very variance between the developing condition of their countries. So I see it as a very strong element of the African continent. And that's why we usually have much less meetings in the study period with regard to the spectrum management compared to Europe, for example. We can have 1 meeting per year. They have 3 meetings per year. So I think, no, this is a wrong perception. We have a very good coordination with regard to the internal African group, and also with regard to neighboring group, because we are open at all the levels. People from CEPT, from EBT, from CETEL can participate openly. So yes, thank you, Mr. Massima.
Thank you, Kezias, please.
Yes, so let me try to attempt 3 questions on the chat. I think very, very important. So number 1 is, there's a question from Javelin asking, can consumer groups participate in our work? Totally. The answer is 110%. When we have our meetings, we do everything transparently. And then may we invite the consumer groups to participate at national level, to participate at the sub-regional level, and also to participate at the ATU level. If I remember well, I think we had participation of the Consumer International at our last meeting for WRC-19. I may be mistaken, but I think that was the case, so we welcome them. And then there's a very important question on what are we doing as it relates to rural connectivity. So we have all these spectrum and all this. What are we doing for rural connectivity? What we can say is that there are many factors that affect rural connectivity. Many factors. Energy, sheer road access, and all that. And I'm quite happy to say here that certainly spectrum is not the bottleneck. Of course, we need to do more, but spectrum is not the bottleneck. On our part, what we are doing what we will do in the next few days is to launch a deliberate program to develop spectrum recommendations to deliberately promote rural connectivity. But even today, even before these specific recommendations are developed, we believe that spectrum is indeed not the bottleneck. Of course, there's a lot of room to do more, but spectrum may not be the bottleneck. And also, this also relates to the question from Usman, who is asking, what are we going to do to promote Ka-band satellite in the rural areas? So we'll do two things. First, we are developing a model framework for satellite licensing in Africa. So that element will be addressed there. And also the one I've just spoken about in terms of having a deliberate plan, a deliberate mechanism to develop recommendations to promote rural connectivity in terms of spectrum. So that's two. KA for rural areas will go there too. Now, what we may wish to appeal here is that really the appeal is that let us approach this in a holistic manner, especially rural connectivity. May we also advocate that, for example, infrastructure people must also push that agenda. The energy people should push that agenda. The taxation people, the economic people and all that should push that agenda. Security, for example, in many, well, not many, in some parts of rural Africa, security is an issue. You cannot send an engineer, yeah, to connect a rural connectivity, to connect a rural community. So may we hope that these other elements are also being worked on, but certainly for sure, spectrum, in our view, is not the bottleneck. Of course, we need to do more, but certainly not the bottleneck. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Kezias. I think, yes, the answer for these KA bands is already given. One other topic, do you all remember that there was a specific session during this WRC-19 for women, for the gender balance? And so what commitment has that to at EU can you and the countries respectively can you propose to try to improve the contribution and participation of our engineers, our ladies in all this process?
Yes, yes. Yes. Okay, so
of you.
Yeah, so I'm given a go-ahead by the moderator. I'm very pleased on behalf of the Secretary General to say here that the heads of the sub-regions, so we have 5 very strong sub-regions, SADC in the south, IACO in the east, ICAS in central, ECOWAS in west, and north in north. These undertook at our last preparatory meeting for WRC-23, undertook to promote women by reserving at least 30% positions to women in all our leaderships. I think at this point, it may not get better than that. And therefore, on behalf of the Secretary General, may we welcome ladies to come forth and present. Of course, we all begin from somewhere. There's never been an expert who was born an expert. So we are welcoming women at whatever level they are to come and benefit, take advantage, fully leverage this commitment made by the sub-regions. And Mr. Masima, you know that at ART we don't do anything outside the sub-regions. So that commitment was taken by the sub-regions. Ours is to implement, and we are hoping that we will be assisted by the women engineers themselves, presenting themselves in the manner they are. In the manner they are, they don't have to doubt themselves. All they have to is to present themselves, and we are all here to assist them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think you all agree with this statement and position, as you are all coming from one respective region. So I have just 30 seconds to summarize our session. Thanks to my speakers, thanks to Kezias, Bashir, and Mohamed. And the chat is giving me the impression that everyone is congratulating Hatu, Egypt, and for a formidable session of WRC, which will stay in our minds as one of the successful WRC organized in the continent. And now, of course, we cannot say that, okay, we can always use this chat and the brainstorming to try to continue those discussions. Thanks to the people who have been appointed to these respective teams, working parties, and so on, to prepare for the next round, for the next WRC. And of course, we stay following up the other session of this interesting conference. Thanks for these fire starters, and take care. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much to Jean-Jacques. Thank you to Bashir, to Kezias, and Mohammed as well. So I'm sure you'll all agree that was a fascinating session, really was an interesting session, and a great way to kick off with our first discussion. And a big thank you also to all of you out there for all of your questions and comments for the speakers. I think we got round to most of those being answered. But yeah, thank you. We do appreciate those, and that's a big part of the event and what we're looking to do as well. So thank you for all your comments and your questions there. So next, we now move on to our final sessions of today. So as I mentioned earlier, we're now moving to our showcase sessions. So these sessions, there's going to be 3 parallel sessions that are now running. You can view these in the stages area, so click on stages, and then you'll see showcase stage 1, 2, or 3, and you can make your choice of which of those you wish to attend. So the options are, you have the showcase on stage 1 is 5G is on, hosted by Huawei. On showcase stage 2, you have the showcase Unleashing the Full Potential of 5G, hosted by Qualcomm. And on showcase stage 3, the showcase which is taking place there is Dynamic Spectrum Access for an Inclusive Digital Africa, and that's hosted by Microsoft. So please do make your choice of which one of those you want to attend, and make your way over to those stages now. If you don't, sorry, I should say they'll all be running in parallel, so you're obviously not going to be able to watch all of them live, but all of those sessions are being recorded, and you'll receive the links afterwards so you can catch up on anything that you might have missed. And just before we finish, a quick reminder that tomorrow we start a little bit earlier than we have done today. So again, all these times are Central African times. We start at 11 o'clock tomorrow, Central African time, where we're going to be continuing the discussion on WRC, then starting to look forward to WRC-23. We then have some additional showcases, and we have a discussion on the C-band as well, which is going to be taking place. And finally, to wrap up things tomorrow, we have the first of our Have Your Say sessions, which will be the opportunity for all of you out there in the audience to bring your audio and your video feed live, come up onto the stage, and to be part of the discussion. So all of that happening tomorrow. So looking forward to that. But in the meantime, please make your way now to one of the showcase sessions. They're going to be starting very shortly on the 3 stages there. And looking forward to seeing everyone back here again on the main stage for the sessions tomorrow. So enjoy the showcases, and see you tomorrow. Thank you very much, everyone.